Evening and welcome to the Lunenburg Planning Board of Monday, January 25th, 2021. As a preliminary matter, this is Adam Burney, Land Use Director. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. I'm just going to run through you as I see you on the screen. Please confirm that you're here and you can hear me. Matthew Allison.
Here and can hear you.
Paula Bertram.
Here and can hear you.
And Matthew Brenner.
I am here, and I can hear you.
So, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access through Facebook Live or YouTube Live, one of the two. And this meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted remotely. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance of the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus, and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. And all town facilities are currently closed to the public outside of appointment-only visits. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website under COVID-19 Information Center on the town manager's webpage, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded and so the public can follow along with the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Planning Board is convening by Zoom video conference as posted on the town's website and identifying how the public may join. Using an internet-enabled device, smartphone, tablet, or computer, go to the Zoom app or zoom.us and enter the meeting ID number. Tonight's meeting ID number is 829-757-17098. Again, you can also access by telephone by calling 888-475-4499, 888-475-4499. And again, you would enter the same meeting ID number, 829-757-17098. Please note this meeting is being recorded and some attendees, most attendees, are participating by video conference. You guys have been through this. Hide stuff you don't want people to see because it's going to get recorded and it'll be there forever. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Burney. I don't have an agenda in front of me. I stopped by and Marjorie said there is no packet. So I'm assuming the only thing we've got outside of our standard is the subdivision regs?
That's correct.
Okay. So do we want to do a minutes approval?
Well, I do have a public comment first, Mr. Chair.
Okay, please, sorry.
So that's all right. It's more of a public announcement than a public comment. On February 4th, Greenleaf Botanicals will be holding a community information meeting for the potential cannabis retail business located at 88 Mass Ave. This meeting will be held through Zoom video conference, which at this point we're all intimately familiar with. It will be at 7 p.m. Thursday, February 4th. You can dial in using the meeting ID number 568-961-0481. And the password is Greenleaf, all capital letters. This should be appearing in the Lunenburg Ledger for the next 2 weeks as well. The end of it appeared on Friday. It should appear again this coming Friday. And it should be available on the town's website, including on the town calendar, but this is just a reminder that this is happening. This is the first step for these folks to apply to the Cannabis Control Commission, this in conjunction with the host community agreement with the Board of Selectmen.
Nice. And I'll just add to that. This is the first time this has happened in Lunenburg. That was going to be my question. Is it going to be on the calendar, on the town website calendar? And you said it is, so that's good. All right. Is there any other comment? Public board or otherwise? Okay. Do we want to do the minutes?
Probably, yeah. It's we've got minutes approval and then committee reports.
Has anybody read the minutes?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
I would second.
Very good. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor by roll call. Mrs. Bertram.
Aye.
Mr. Brenner.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Very good. Committee reports, right?
That's correct.
Stormwater, no report. Agricultural Commission, we did meet. There were three of us. There were two members and one alternate. First time we used the alternate to have an official meeting, but it only lasted about half an hour. We really didn't talk about much. I updated them on our changing of the charge for the Economic Development Committee. And I had been telling them, I had told them for a long time one way, the right way, and then I, for whatever reason, started telling them it had to go to town meeting, but we'd like to get a petition going to form a public market or accept that at town meeting and at least allow for it. So public market would be a brick and mortar all year round place to not just for agricultural commission and just for farmers market, but it's a public market. So it could be crafts. We could have fairs. We could have events. Anyways, it requires a petition signed by 5% of the registered voters. And I got back from the town clerk that we have 8,000 something registered voters. So I would be happy getting 450 signatures, which sounds like a lot, especially during COVID, but we probably won't be able to get it for the annual town meeting. But anyways, that's just something that we've been talking about for a couple of years now. And moving on to TCP Building Design Committee. The last meeting, we met with the architect and the engineers and talked about sidewalks, parking. We decided to move the parking and the sidewalk closer to the building, eliminating some more green space and making more open space available for expanded parking or just leaving it as open space. Talked a lot about toilets. That's moving along quite well. So Open Space Ad Hoc Committee.
We met and not a whole lot has changed since our last meeting. We are just continuing to look at the municipal lands and identify possible uses.
Very good.
I did have a question about the Agricultural Commission report.
Yes.
The brick and mortar structure, I completely support the idea of a public market, but do you guys have any thoughts on what that structure would be or a building in mind, or what are your thoughts?
Well, ever since it came up, I went on the building tour. I remember you and I both went on the building tour in December of 2017.
Yeah.
And I had it in the back of my mind, having it there at the TC Passios since then.
Okay.
But that's not the only option. I don't know if Boys and Girls Club has a residential kitchen or a commercial kitchen, but that would be one. Well, they've outgrown that facility, so eventually they're looking to find something bigger that might be available. When TCP gets occupied, that's going to leave the existing town hall and the Ritter building available. And beyond that, I don't think I've had any.
So you guys are open to just making sure that you have a space in the redevelopment of the town buildings, really, is what you're looking for.
Well, that would be ideal. Because it's right in the
town. Yeah.
We're certainly open. If none of those spots are available, then alternates would be sought.
I think I agree with you that one of the town buildings in the center of town would be ideal. I just wanted to see if you had a specific building in mind. That's all.
Well, and then maybe even the Brooks House.
Okay.
Nobody's come up with a viable use for that.
Right.
So, Anyways,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. So Capital Planning Committee.
Capital plan is complete, and it worked a little bit differently this year. As I mentioned before, rather than being given a number and trying to fit the projects within that number, we prioritized all of the requests. There were 23 capital requests, totaling just over 2.5 million. So with that information, the town manager then went back and came up with her recommendation. And her recommendation was to fund 13 of those projects for a total of almost 1.5 million. That's the funding that's available. So
you were given a number of available funds?
We were not. We just prioritized all 23 of the requests, and then the town manager took that information and came up with the final fiscal 22 capital plan recommendation using that information. And basically she went along with our prioritization list and funded 1 through 13 of that 23 item list.
Very good. Montezuma Regional Planning Commission.
MRPC has not met since our last meeting.
And how about Montezuma Joint Transportation Committee?
We did. And excuse me, going through my notes. A few things for the upcoming, for the tip for 2021, there is one Lunenburg project listed, which is bridge rehabilitation on Route 2A over Pearl Hill Brook. That is all set to be in the 2021 tip and should not need, and it's one of the projects that should not need to be pushed out to 2022.
Great.
If you follow the tip, there's been overall there's been some budgeting changes that might look a little wonky at first. It's basically just COVID number shuffling, because with COVID, different grants became available at the state level for different things. So there was some number shuffling to kind of meet budgets.
Excuse me.
But yeah, the Lunenburg one is there through 2025. That is the only project we have that we have on the tip plans. But we should be good for that. Switching to my other note page. They did and I apologize that I missed the name of the group. I can get that, but they did a traffic circle study for all of northern Worcester County, and we have one small diameter rotary in town, which I just found that interesting. The one over by Whalum is not a traffic circle; it is a rotary by their technical definitions. The group that was doing the study kind of evaluated every traffic circle and rotary in the region and gave feedback on it. And the feedback on ours was essential. And this is going on to the relevant departments and everything. But I found that interesting that the 108-foot diameter rotary we have is a rotary, not a traffic circle, because it doesn't meet the safety standards for a traffic circle. And for the 2022 Unified Planning Work Program, so far only one project has come in, and that's from Sterling. And so if we want to get a project into the UPWP, they made a big deal that they don't need a full engineered workout or anything. They just need kind of a just a one-page rundown of this is what the plan is, so they can figure out what kind of study would be appropriate from that. So if we need to get something in, that is an option available to us.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'm going to interrupt for a minute. Mr. Cole just said he tried to get in and was another meeting in progress was the indication he got. So is there any reason?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay, I'll tell him to try again. No big deal. Very good. I'm glad to hear from him. I was concerned. I hadn't heard from him for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Anyways, so that's the end of our committee reports. So I guess this is our workshop.
It is.
Okay. I bet Paula read the regs, right?
I did.
I tried numerous times, and every time I sat down to read them, something came out. But I will play catch up.
And I'm sure Matthew did too.
Oh, Matt read them last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was ready.
He was already ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a good doobie once in a while.
All right. So
should we wait for Tanner? Have you gotten any notification that he's been able to get in, or?
I don't see him in the waiting room.
Okay.
I don't think we need to wait.
Okay.
So if it did anything come up in your mind, Paula, when you read through it?
I actually just have some minor things. So I was thinking that maybe we just go through each section.
I think if you go through the document and make your comments in each section, that's the easiest way to do it.
Okay, so you have it up on the screen.
I do.
Okay, so in section 4.4-1, the phrasing is odd for me. I don't think you need, I would modify the wording slightly. I would just say prior to investing in extensive professional design efforts for subdivision plans, it may be beneficial for the prospective applicant to discuss his or her ideas with the planning and other technical municipal staff to help avoid problems at a later stage of the subdivision review process. I would just combine that into one sentence. And Matt, I don't know if we want to ask questions on each section, because I'm sure you have comments as well.
I gave most of mine last time, so.
Oh, okay. On the next thing that I have a question on is, where is it? In section 4.3.3.17.
4.3.17.
4.3.3.17, yeah.
All right, hold on.
I would like them to identify areas of critical environmental concern as well as biomap core habitat.
Right. Let me just get to my paper on that.
And I also think that should say as updated, right? Or does it matter?
I mean, we can add this.
I think you want to put the reference to the current biomap. I mean, maybe if we just say the current biomap core habitat.
It will, and as updated is the way to do that.
Yeah, okay.
So you want to see core habitat supporting landscape and ACEC.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop the share for a second because I want to check the waiting room. There he is. All right. And we're back.
Maybe just give Tanner a second to.
I'm here.
Okay.
Welcome back.
So Tanner's in at 6:50.
Okay. So on 4.3.3.19.
Yep.
If requested by the Board of Health, why would we wait for them to request it? Why would we not just require that the location and results of all perk tests be on the plan?
Preliminary? This
is definitive, is it not?
243 is definitive. Yes. No, they should be required.
And again, my thinking was in the case of a larger subdivision, perking each and every lot creates a significant amount of disturbance prior to any approvals or any seeking of approvals. So if we perk 50 lots or 100 lots on 200 acres, you're then disturbing the entirety of the parcel in order to perk each individual lot. So if for some reason the board doesn't approve the project, or there are significant alterations through the board's process, there's a series of disturbances that exist throughout the entire lot prior to any significant progress being made on approval.
But if they've done the testing, I want to see it on the plan. So I understand what you're saying is the testing is not necessary.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So the location of any percolation test being done should be done. Conducted,
right. If any testing's been conducted, I want it shown on the plan. If they haven't done it, they haven't done it.
Okay, so the location. So we just removed that first clause. So it says the location and results of all percolation tests to evaluate to perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next one.
But before we move on, I don't want to approve a definitive subdivision plan without having soil tests. Is that well?
We do that though. If you think it's some of the ones we have, if you think of O'Brien specifically, they didn't have perk tests and deep hole tests on all those lots.
That's true. I guess it is kind of at their
risk.
Yeah, and I mean it's also significant potential damage to the environment prior to, if for some reason they go out and they do 100 tests and they don't pass.
So how about we need to have them in drainage areas in proposed basins, where, especially if there's recharge proposed. Is that listed here somewhere?
Well, that would be in the stormwater and the drainage calcs under 43325. Okay. So it mandates the application for a stormwater permit, and the stormwater permit requires the calculations, which requires the testing to perform those calculations.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry, Paula.
Oh, no worries. Okay, on 43330.1.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
I just have a question on that. The completion deadline date, is that the 3 years from the approval date?
Yeah, I actually think it's 2 years in this document.
Okay, because later on in the document, it talks about a 3-year time period. So that was my question, is what is the completion date and how is it determined?
Okay, I may have put 3 years in there. I vary sometimes between 2 and 3 years. 3 is probably more realistic in most cases.
Okay.
But
so we just want to make sure it's consistent.
Yeah.
So the next, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, so 4395 says 2 years.
But then later on, and I don't remember specifically where, it talks about 3 years. So we might just want to check that.
Okay, well that's the reference in that section.
Okay. On section 4.3.4.
4.3.4.
And it talks about the Board of Health and their review and what they have to incorporate in their review. Or has the Board of Health had an opportunity to see this, and have they commented?
They have not, and we can get it to them.
Okay, because I would want their comments on this.
Okay, and the timelines that are in there are statutory.
Okay.
So the 45 days is mandated by the general law.
Okay.
But I'll run this by the Board of Health as well.
Okay. And then in that same section, the second paragraph says all subdivisions shall apply to connect to the town sanitary sewage system. if it's available. This is contrary to Mass State Law, Title V, and I'm wondering why we would require that.
My understanding was that Title V required if you could connect to sewerage that you did.
That's incorrect. Title V was modified. The original version of Title V stated that. However, it was changed to state that Title V, that connection is not mandatory. And the reason they did that is because they were seeing problems with recharge. So they actually changed Title V to allow for septic systems. So I don't want to mandate something that is not required and make it more strict than Title V, because personally I agree with the perspective that groundwater recharge is critical, especially in a community that has 3 water bodies.
Okay, so do we want to remove that?
I would, but
I'm kind of not in that favor. I would prefer that they hooked up to sewer if it was available, rather than putting in a septic.
What's the reasoning?
Well, it's just my personal thought. I mean, they build the houses to suit the septic typically. So you get these really high pedestal houses, and it. I think that a sewer system. I mean, the Title V systems, they're really not detrimental at all, but there are all kinds of things that can go wrong with them. And I guess there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with the sewer connection as well.
I feel strongly the other way. I worked for a long time at the Board of Health, and mounted systems are all dependent on the groundwater offset. So depending on the groundwater offset, I replaced my septic system, and my septic system is still flat because I had a very deep groundwater offset. But yet my neighbor down the street has a raised system because they had ledge and the groundwater was higher. So it's all site specific. But problems with recharge are very well documented throughout the state of Massachusetts. And if you take a look at the Blackstone Valley, that's a perfect case study of the impact of sewer on groundwater recharge. And if we had a sewer system or a septic sewer management system here in Lunenburg that was recharging our groundwater, then fine. But we're not. We're sending it to Leominster or to Fitchburg. So for every gallon of water that we're pulling out of the water district, out of the wells or private wells, instead of being filtered and going through the natural process of the septic system, it's being carted away to other municipalities. And impact on groundwater recharge is absolutely well documented. And DEP actually adopted a saying of reduce, reuse, recharge. So before we make any decisions on that, I'd like to provide more information about my concerns relative to groundwater recharge. There are many developments that are associated along the Catacunamog, along the Mulpus. Both the Catacunamog Basin and the Mulpus Basin are medium stress basins, meaning they are net exporters of water. So we are exporting more water than we're bringing in. So making people connect to sewer is only going to exacerbate that problem.
Okay, you've opened my eyes. That was a very good point. Very well made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're striking that paragraph?
So the second paragraph in 434?
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose so. This document only applies to definitive subdivisions, right? Not
That's
like
correct.
or PRDs or anything.
Well, no, because if I'm not mistaken, clusters are subdivisions. They're just designed differently based on the size of the lot. So it would affect cluster as well.
Okay. So I guess back to, go ahead. Sorry.
Cluster is allowed to use group systems that recharge on site.
Okay.
Similar to RUCs or small batch plants,
And it's obviously a developer's choice. They may want to connect to sewer if sewer is available, and most likely they will, but I just don't want to require it.
Okay.
if you were developing it and sewer's in the road and you're doing a clustered development, most likely you're going to connect to the sewer. You're not going to choose to put in a septic system.
Right.
But I just don't want to make it a requirement.
Okay. Very
So
good.
I'm going to strike the first sentence and leave the second that says every lot not served by town sewerage shall have an adequate approved disposal system satisfactory to the Board of Health, just as a redundancy, so it's in there.
Right.
Yep. Beautiful.
Well, I just had one quick comment on that. I share Paula's concern, but the other piece of this puzzle that I foresee is if you had a parcel that a portion of it was in the sewer service area, but a portion was not, now you can created an argument that a developer could potentially use to say, well, the regulations require us to connect if it's available. It is available, but the service area doesn't cover the whole parcel. So now we've then the service area, and I think we're better off, like Paula said, just leave it alone and let the developer shake it out whichever way, and encourage people to hopefully recharge the water.
Okay, the next thing that I had is, this is just a grammatical recommendation. It's on 4.3.8. When you say an approved or approved with modifications, definitive plan shall not be endorsed until after I would say shall not be endorsed before the mandatory 20-day appeal period, just as cleaner.
Okay, so not be endorsed
before the mandatory 20-day appeal. So 4.3.8.1, the phrasing is really strange in this whole section. So the heading is required documents to be submitted. I don't have any problem with the context, just the wording.
Okay.
So required documents to be submitted, and then it would list the documents. But so a revised definitive subdivision plan, fine. Delivered one set, so deliver.
Yeah.
Once, and it's every paragraph in here is worded very oddly. So
let me go back and noodle with those.
Yeah, I just would clean up the phrasing in that whole section. So like 4.3.8.1.4, submitted a municipal lien certificate, just a municipal lien certificate.
Yeah.
Just, and I didn't understand 4.3.8.1.9. I don't understand why the spacing is weird. And it just starts with delivered an irrevocable offer of dedication. Is that a document or what is?
Yes.
So that should be under the documents.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
But it's just, if you look at the way it's, at least on my copy, there's an indentation and then it goes back out. So it was just hard to follow.
Yeah, it looks like I did something with the formatting in there.
So I would just fix that. And then finally on your section 4.3.13, I would like to list the departments.
I'm sorry, where is that?
4.3.13.
4.3.8.1.3?
No, 4.3.13, pre-construction conference.
Backwards?
No, 4.3.13.
Oh, you know what? It is 4.3.13.
Okay.
Got it.
Sorry. So I just would recommend that we do list the departments, and that's all I have.
And so I'm going to look for a list of, well, I'll tell you the departments I would think would be there and tell me if you think I'm missing anybody. So it would be the police department, the fire department, Concom, DPW, the water district, if they're in the service area, and I think, and planning.
Conservation.
Yeah, they were the third one I said.
Okay, sorry, I missed it.
That's all right. So I've got 6: LPD, police, fire, Concom, DPW, water district planning, and sewer. But I guess that'll be covered by DPW.
Wouldn't it be better?
It separately.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I would list sewer separately.
Yeah, okay. That was going to be my comment.
All right, so I'm going to add Board of Health. Just they can come if they feel it's necessary. And I do want to go back, since Tanner's here, to up to the beginning, where we talk about what plans get submitted. And we've talked a little bit recently about whether we want to get full-size plans for the board. So 4, 3, 2, 1. And currently, it requires 11 by 17s for the board. And this kind of bleeds into the director's item that's on the agenda about the rules and regs for site plan and special permit. Those also state 11 by 17 copies for the board. We can change those to require full-size sets that we would distribute to the board. But if in 4-6 months we're all meeting in person again, we would go through the whole hearing process to change it back if the board felt that everybody having a large format plan at the desk was a problem. So I just want to kind of, if we're going to require full-size sets, that's fine. We can just eliminate this sentence and add those 7 sets of plans to the 8 required up above. And if not, then we'll leave it as it is. I just wanted to kind of bring that back up. I know Tanner had said it's hard to read on the computer screen, which I get. And, the 11 by 17 doesn't give enough detail. So when we're meeting in the style that we're meeting now, it probably would be helpful to have a large format plan at home. But do we want to carry that forward in perpetuity?
I agree with that sentiment. It is nice to have, but I don't think we each individual, once we get back together and we're all sitting at the table, I don't think we all individually need, because really, honestly, we don't all have room to each of us have a full-size plan looking at. Mm-hmm. The buddy system works pretty well in that. It would save the applicant some money. I guess the only problem would potentially come at the end of the meeting, like who gets to keep it. But I don't know.
From my perspective, I don't foresee this thing changing back quickly. And so I'd rather have a full-size set of plans. They also come in handy if we do any site visits to do a walkthrough. Mm-hmm. You can bring a set of plans. And even if we are able to get back to regular meetings, which I would start tomorrow if that was a possibility. But even if we get back there, we're probably going to change up the format, I would imagine. Probably spread out a little bit more and potentially in that situation, you'd probably want your own set.
So are we going to, do you want me to schedule a public hearing to change the rules and regs to shift from 11 by 17s to full-size plans for the board?
From my point of view, I think it makes sense.
I don't feel strongly one way or another.
Neither do I.
I hear what Tanner's saying about the future, and I think it makes. I think it also makes sense that there may be a time frame, even if we're meeting in 4 to 6 months, we may not be all up in each other's business while doing as such.
Mm-hmm.
So we may not want or be, there may be mandates saying we shouldn't be crowding around and sharing plans.
Okay, then I guess the answer is yes, but then I'll also add the caveat that I've been on planning since 2012, and we've only had what, 2 or 3. I mean, 2 of them were already in process. I think,
and it might not apply to subdivisions right now, but we would have to do it for a site plan and special permit as a public hearing for those regs to get it for what we probably do more regularly.
Okay.
So this change is relatively easy because we're not voting on these anytime soon. We've got this chapter. We'll make the changes that we've talked about this evening and last week with Matt's changes. We'll re-review that, and we'll start looking at probably the definitions next, and then we'll move into design stuff. I want to get the perspective of the town departments on some of the design stuff before we dig too far into it.
Okay, and then also, I don't know what your process is, but I would also like to suggest that while you're speaking with other departments, that you not only ask about our specific questions, but you ask if they have any input, if they have any ideas or suggestions. I don't know if you do or not, but I think that would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always open to what they might think for changes when they get what we've put in, or if there's something that we're missing. And I think having Rob as the DPW director will help a lot, as someone who sat on the other side of the table and designed these.
Yes. All right, so that's wraps up Paula's review.
Yep.
And so, Tanner, if you haven't figured it out, I'm sure you have. We're going over the procedure for submission and review of plans for definitive subdivisions, or preliminary and definitive. I think that's been in our packet for the last 2 or 3 meetings. So I don't know if you have a copy.
I do. And my only issue is the sewer thing that we talked about, and then getting a better set of plans. And I guess in the interim, could we ask applicants to, I know it's not required right now, but ask applicants to get us a bigger set?
We can.
And I know it's not a requirement again, but hopefully they understand the situation. Because typically when we had these hearings, you would have the engineer there, they'd have their big set, and they could point to things and describe things and scale things off, and we could get all that information. And with the remote meetings, it makes it difficult. So, and I don't know, Matt, you would know this better, but scaling wise, like if I get a set of plans emailed to me, I can't even scale anything off of it because I print it and the scale's off because it's designed to be 24 by 30 or 18 by 24.
Yeah, unless you're getting it printed in the large format, the scale is going to be wonky.
Yeah, and I think that's the bigger issue.
I did ask to have that added, a graphical scale. I don't know if that was. I remember we put it on there, but I think it might have been when we were talking about it's in the A&R, and it's in the information you have tonight. So a graphical scale is required on all the plans submitted for preliminary and definitive subdivision?
Yes, it
Excellent.
is.
Excellent. So,
and I mean, we can make that change in the rules and regs if we're changing what plans are. We can change anything we want in there. If we're going to have the hearing, we may as well change whatever the board desires to change. So I'll add a graphic scale in there if it's not in there.
And that's good for every hard copy, but you can't scale anything off your screen.
No.
Because as soon as you zoom in, you got to rescale. All right. Does anybody have anything else on this? All right. Well, I don't know that we have any other business.
We don't, because the director's item we just talked about, which was the rules and regs for site plan and special permit, the meeting schedule, February 8th and February 22nd. As of right now, I don't see anything on the immediate horizon. That doesn't mean something won't pop up. Ongoing items, we've got the zoning for section 256.1, the off-street parking and loading. I've been working on that, so I'm hopeful to have at least a preliminary draft of all of the uses for the next meeting. It might be down to the wire, but hopefully we'll get it off to you. If not, I know I've got the definitions, section 2 of the rules and regs loaded and ready to go for you guys to look at. So that's kind of what I've got on the horizon for you.
Okay, super. Does anybody have anything of interest that they want to say, talk, ask?
I guess I actually have a question, and it's more for, I think it's for Adam. My understanding is that the Orion subdivision is proposing now a potential connection to the water district. And I'm just wondering what that means as far as our approval, since our approval was based on individual wells. If a water line is now installed, what happens as far as the planning board process?
I guess the most likely thing would be they would need to modify the approval just to include the water lines in the subdivision, because then that would become part of whatever cost estimate they need to do when they replace their existing covenant with another form of surety. From a practical perspective, it doesn't change the planning board's approval in any real way, because the water line is going to, and again, I'm making some inferences here, but I think that they're on pretty solid ground. The water line's probably going to run through the road. The connections are going to be from that main line off to each individual house in conformance with the water district's requirements, because they're the ones who are going to oversee that. So from a 10,000 foot view, doesn't change the subdivision as far as road layout, lot layout, those type of things. And if it were to change any of those things, then obviously that's a significant change that the board would have to approve. Why I say I think it would probably be best to modify the subdivision is there is significant drainage infrastructure in the roadway. And when you go in and install the water line there, it's probably best to ensure that there are no conflicts vertically or horizontally as the two piping systems get laid down. But I think it's a pretty minor modification in the scheme of what a subdivision is.
Okay, but it does come back to us for a modification.
I would expect that you would want to see that, because if I'm not mistaken, it does require that they show utilities in there. And
it does.
And that would obviously be a utility, and if they're changing the way it's served, then that changes the subdivision.
Okay, so if in fact it is approved by the water district, then you'll notify the applicant that they're going to need a modification.
Yes, and again, I'll verify with council that we're on firm legal ground to do so, but that's my understanding.
Well, I would argue that we are, because it is required that they show utilities. So,
I believe so as well, but based on the history of this project, I think it's always better to have input from council at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Along those lines, Adam, we've had a couple of updates along the way where it was believed that Mr. O'Brien was going to come back and get another, like, revamp the project and direction. Has that changed, or is this water line extension there to support high density assisted living or something along those lines?
Your guess is as good as mine. I have met with Mr. O'Brien about a concept that he had. I think it was probably a less positive meeting than he expected it to be. And I think there's some significant regulatory hurdles for him to get over before he would be even able to think about what he was conceptually proposing. It would certainly make sense if you were going to increase the density or change to a use like an assisted living or otherwise, that you would need public water just for convenience sake and most likely for fire protection. But I don't know definitively that he's changing, or if he just wants to make this a little bit easier on himself to be able to wiggle septic systems into 1 acre lots in an area where the soil is tight.
What was the modification? What was the other design that he proposed? Can you?
It was a smaller. It was a small bedroom, high density residential. You know, lower bed. It was an equivalent bedroom count across more units.
Okay, and why was that not favorable?
We don't have a regulatory mechanism. We don't have zoning in place that would allow him to build the density and intensity that he desires.
Okay. I'm just thinking that a lower bedroom count per unit would not create as big of an impact on school systems. But I understand what you're saying about zoning.
And that's not to say that he couldn't work with his attorney to create a zoning proposal to the town, or that he couldn't approach the Board of Selectmen to do a local initiative project, which is a what they call a friendly 40B, or it's a comprehensive permit where the town is essentially a co-applicant. And, you know, the political powers buy into what's proposed as a benefit to the town. And the private developer cedes some control of their design and layout to the town. They work cooperatively to create a proposal that is permittable. And I say permittable because it's probably going to be distasteful to some and incredibly exciting to others. And you kind of get to that point where is this best for the town? Does the powers that be see that this is something that they want to pursue? It's not an easy process, and it's not done as often as other comp permits, but it is an option that could be pursued.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the insight in these situations, because I feel like when people are looking at expanding the water district, they should go into these meetings with their eyes wide open and realize this might be the piece of a much bigger puzzle, and realize that what they think they're voting for may turn out to be something entirely different. So,
yeah, I mean, and anytime that you add a utility like a water or a sewer or both, you're driving development and making it easier, essentially. It's not less expensive, but it's certainly easier. And places where you might only be able to put 10 houses, you might be able to get twice that if you have a water or a sewer available because of groundwater offsets or the separation between water service and sewer service.
Yeah, no, it definitely promotes development, that's for sure. And there's still a lot of large tracts of land in that area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, extending a water line 15,000 linear feet. That's a long way. So,
yep. And I do know that Mr. O'Brien has a potential wellhead on his property that he has spoken with the water district about opening up. So I'm sure the water district is envisioning this as an opportunity to diversify their supply, both numerically and geographically.
Do you know if that, well, I guess that will come out at the hearing of the water district, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that they've had conversations. What the detail of it is and the specifics of whatever agreement may or may not have been agreed, I don't know.
All right. Anything else?
That's what I've got.
All right. Well, if there is nothing else, then I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
Second. Excellent. Any discussion about adjourning? All right. All in favor, roll call vote. Mrs. Bertram.
Aye.
Mr. Brenner.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Thank you all. Good to see you, Tanner. And have a great evening and good week.
Thank you all. Meeting's over.
Good night, everybody.
7:28.